I don't remember what made me try out this Netflix anime titled Aggretsuko. Maybe it was because it was during a pretty quiet time and it looked like a simple and quick watch that, I don't know, just kind of looked like it'd be something easy to consume. And coming out of it, it's an anime I think is essential for any young adult to watch because, boy, is it gonna be relatable in so many levels, but I had a challenge in this video. Trying to think of a lesson from this show. What was the point of it all? What was the point of this very simple looking, on the surface level Netflix anime that got 5 seasons that is filled to the brim with moments that young adults are just going to have to deal with? What is the one takeaway that I would take from it now that it's all wrapped and done after 5 seasons? What is the one thing I would take away? I think I finally have it. We first meet Retsuko in season 1 as a 25-year-old working adult for an accounting department. She lives alone, has no relationship, and a boss that puts her through the absolute ringer. She gets work piled onto her by many others. She has a hard time saying no to almost anything unless it's freaking hanging out with people, because she only seems to confide in her 2 office buddies, Haida and Feniko. But she doesn't really do anything outside of work with them or really accepts much help or anything, because she just kind of takes on the weight of the world without really pushing it off, because she just is that kind of a person. She's the girl that goes shopping and buys a sock just to, say that she got something from the store. She's the friend that has an opportunity to escape her job the second that maybe more pleasant one shows up. She's a girl that thinks if she gets married, she won't have to work anymore. She comes across all these solutions to problems that she just doesn't want to face. It's only through a very spontaneous yoga class that the ball gets rolling when she meets Gori and Washimi, 2 other much more powerful and assertive seeming girls at her same building that they walk the walk. She admires them because they can stand up and, they just have that poise, confidence feel to them. They even practice their badass walk. Eventually, Retsuko starts hanging out with these 2, and it leads to what is really the cornerstone, in my opinion, to the beginning of her becoming a stronger person. Washimi and Gori find out Retsuko's secret. Like many of us have habits of smoking or drinking or diving into video games or whatever, we have these habits of ours that is to help us release our pain or stress or whatever on the world. Retsuko has something much more, let's just say, healthier for her body, maybe other than her lungs, of course, because she gets a karaoke booth and sings heavy death metal. It's not even really karaoke. She just puts on music to let out her absolute frustration on the entire world and her just pain, anger, rage, everything she's bottling up as she keeps on taking all these nice things she does for people. She just lets it out in this booth. And Gori and Washimi know now. This is significant because Retsuko finally has 2 people that are hearing her. 2 people that are actually finding out about what is truly troubling her, the stuff that she's bottling up, and they get to see that. And it's the beginning of her having 2 people to confide with. And as she faces the 2 big conflicts of her first season, which is Tone, her boss that just constantly uses her and gives her shit, she finally lets out her rage on him and speaks up for herself, only with the courage to do it thanks to Washimi and Gori. And we find out later on that this act was one that got Tone a lot more respect for, I almost called her calendar. If you've seen the show, you know why. But also in the back end of the season, we get the finale, which is Retsuko's first love. She believes this is her first love, and she's finally into someone so much that it just makes the world seem like a better place, finally, freaking finally for her. but her work starts slacking off. This guy isn't as caring to her than, she believes. And in Tone's very own words, she's giving more than she's receiving.
Eventually, there ain't gonna be anything left. You get what I'm saying?
I think I do.
So through confiding with Tone, Washimi, and Gori, Retsuko stands up and reveals to this guy who she really is, leading her to realize that this just isn't the one, and she lets it go. The wish-wash Retsuko finally made a stand for herself, in and out of the booth. In the next couple seasons, Retsuko deals with many situations she never would have been able to before. A new coworker and Nai refuses to take feedback well at all, and he needs a reply back on things he questions in written form. It's only through the office gossiper Kabai and her positive reinforcement does he start to change. Retsuko learns to admit his strongest trait as a chef and to acknowledge that to him. She didn't need to really let out her aggression on him, but rather tell him the words that will mean a lot to him. Someone that's scared to face the world as a new young adult that she once was. But Retsuko's own conflict with herself in season 2 is really her lack of love, or more specifically, her lack of pursuing love. Her mom's constantly trying to set her up with new bachelors, and she feels pain when she realizes the one that she actually kind of tried to work something with couldn't wait around for her. But then Tadano comes into the picture. He was just a really down-to-earth guy that seemed like someone that Retsuko just vibed with, and the chemistry was there, and it wasn't like they were being set up or told to be anything, and who knows, maybe that's the reason why Retsuko just connected with him. And of course, we find out he's an absolute big entrepreneur on the front of magazines and everything, but, Retsuko admired his dream. He had one. He had a vision for the world. He had a purpose that he was really connected with achieving, but Retsuko doesn't really have one. The only one she knows she wants at some point in her life is marriage.
Marriage is pointless.
Huh?
She learns that Tadano, this guy that she is finally really connected with, that values her so much for who she is, doesn't really see a point in marriage or kids. Yet again, we get Tone to tell her, that's fine for Tadano, but is that fine for you? You shouldn't have to change who you are and what you want. So once again, Retsuko has to make her stand, share what she wants to the man she loves, and let him live his dream.
You have big plans for the future, but your plans and my dreams are never gonna play well together.
And as much as this might break her heart, we see her and her friend Puko, who took a risk and rented a spot for her business that she started up, but it just didn't work out. They both share a drink together and acknowledge that, yeah, they have their pain that they did from starting these things, from trying these things, but in the end, they don't regret it, and it was a lot of fun. But going into season 3, Retsuko needs to fill the void in her heart with a VR boyfriend that she's spending way too much on, and then stuffing things until eventually an accident results in her having to pay off a debt and working for an idol group, OTM. And at first she's just submissive because she has to pay off this debt. She's a team player, she's loyal, and she's just kind of doing whatever she's told and being there. But she knows she can't quit. She's a good person. She has a debt to pay. But Washimi talks to her. She hears her. She hears her complaints and tells her, what would it be like if you really stepped up and gave it your all?
The job is hard. You're not quitting. So what's next? You have to change your circumstances.
So Retsuko finally steps up and makes some changes as their actual accountant, the role that she was given for this group, and it actually results in them getting paid. They actually get to make money finally, which is something I can highly relate to as somebody that does content and gets really nothing at all. So it's nice for that to have happened for this group. So good job, Retsuko. And speaking of making content, Retsuko decided to start up a side gig, seeing other people like Gorian and I have side hustles. So she starts doing a death metal YouTube channel. I think it's called YouTube, but I don't know. It's basically YouTube. She starts up a channel though to make some side revenue from the AdSense, and you know, she has a gift. She's teaching that gift to the world, and Hyodo, the producer for OTM, finds out that Retsuko can sing some pretty sick-ass death metal. He takes a gamble on the fact that Retsuko is a people pleaser. She really is. He puts her on the spot to sing for OTM their new song. She doesn't want to do this. This wasn't something that she asked to do, and of course she's reluctant, but she does it. Oh, she does it. And the cool part about it is that she sees how much of an impact she's making on others, which is something that we all, I truly believe deep down, want. She has people cheering her name, lining up to just shake her hand, and she feels like she has finally put herself in a spot that makes her feel of value. But soon it blows up in her face when an OG fan of OTM tells her off, starts stalking her.
Let's go!
She no longer has a place in the world. She doesn't feel it's a safe place anymore. She thought she was making a positive impact, but now sees someone hated her enough to try to kill her. It changes her outlook on pretty much everything and causes her to be a total shut-in. No one able to get through to her or find her or speak with her even for that matter. Until Haida, that old office coworker buddy, he barges his way into Retsuko's family home and takes her to the karaoke place that she lets out all of her fears, all of her anger, all of her rage, and pours out his feelings of anger towards the one that he truly cares about, towards the one that he has wanted to be with for 5 years, towards the one that was finally starting to get out into the world but has shut herself off. And as someone that cares about her that much, he lets it out on her. He doesn't bottle up his feelings, and he wants her to hear him, and in the hopes that she will let out what she is feeling, in the hopes that she will let out her rage one more time, so she can let out her frustrations on the world and punch it right back. Now, in order to get to the final takeaway of Retsuko, we have to talk about that guy, Haida. Haida has been crushing on Retsuko for half a decade with unrequited feelings, and he's never felt like more than just a friend to her. Until, you know, he finally managed to pull her out of season 3 and actually seem like a person that is willing to do whatever it takes to get Retsuko out of a bad situation. Which is ironic because the second he finally has a shot with this person that he's been trying to get with for ages, and she's finally literally opening her door to him.
Wanna come in?
He's too chicken to do anything about it. And we learn it's from a place that, on a personal level, is really relatable to me. He has a massive lack of faith in himself, no confidence in himself. He doesn't feel worthy of her, especially after everything she's done. She became an idol, she changes people. She is this light that he just is another face in the crowd, or if he's not that now, he eventually will be. But after the love police getting involved and getting feedback from people and Retsuko stepping up, again, doing that step up to say how she is feeling, that is when Haida gets his confidence, and that is when, freaking the two get together. Which boosts Haida's confidence and feelings of self-esteem through the roof, and even changes in the company with this new CEO that starts recognizing that Haida's got some talent in terms of tech as an IT guy, and he believes Haida can be the one to kind of usher in a new age for this company, in the accounting department at least, this department that the new CEO didn't really recognize as that profitable of one. So Haida's more driven and confident than ever, but we see that he is starting to not really be as attentive or listening to Retsuko. He's there and he's listening, but he's not listening, you know what I mean? And because of that, Retsuko's hiding something from Haida. See, she feels really guilty because a drunk outburst she had pretty much led to Tone, her old boss, that was about to celebrate his 30th year with the company. Well, he quit. And it all is Retsuko's fault, or at least that's how she feels about it. So behind Haida's back, she's raising this YouTube channel yet again, but really going hammer on it and raising the AdSense and everything so she can actually give Tone a proper accounting job again. But she doesn't tell Haida, who at this time Haida was still Haida, just very caught up in his ambitions, but he sees what Retsuko's really been hiding, and that's that, well, she's been with Tadano behind his back. He doesn't have context as if this is her cheating on him or anything, but it's enough reason for him to go down this rabbit hole that we saw glimpses of at the beginning of the season that he just can't help but compare himself. Tadano is somebody that is way more significant in his eyes than himself to Retsuko. He's this big shot entrepreneur on the front of magazines, and here he is just kind of becoming the new department head. So this feeling of inferiority leads him to cooking the books for his CEO. He does this to stay at the top, to keep rising in status, to keep his ego high enough that he is worthy to be with Retsuko. And when she eventually finds out about it and tries to ask him about it, he shuts her down and doesn't really want to talk about it. Just as Retsuko isn't really bringing up what she's been doing for Tone and why she's been with Tadano. Which, by the way, if I didn't clarify, she's just been with Tadano to get his expertise with entrepreneurial stuff, and that's what she's trying to do. But because the two of them are remaining silent about what they've been doing behind each other's back, it just leads to, well, a strain on their relationship. It's only after Haida challenges Tadano to an arm wrestle, and Tadano telling him to his face that he needs to give Retsuko more credit, and Retsuko gets proof of Haida's acts, that he is backed into a corner. She brings him to the booth that ended all of the previous problems. But now, she just waits. Why did he do this? What does he want? How did he justify this? And when he thinks Retsuko's just gonna let it out on him, she tries to wake him up and sing to her what his truth is.
It was for you. I did it for you, Retsuko.
Only after they have this outburst of a moment, he goes to the office to redeem himself and then leaves the company. He cleared his conscience, he addressed the problems that he created, and after doing all this and realizing who he is and letting out his frustrations, he looks up at Tadano again and he wishes him all the best. And now we can finally get to what Aggretsuko really taught us in the final season. So Haida and Retsuko are back together, being a couple living a very quiet life, but Haida's struggling to find a job again. As Sonoda, the love referee, points out, video games are feeding a fake pride in himself. It's the one way he's feeling some kind of sense of achievement after losing his job and leaving it behind. But he gets a wake-up call to not waste time anymore. He gets evicted from his apartment. And at the same time, Retsuko gives him some tough love and says she can't see him till he finds a job. Haida is straight up homeless and lost his girl for the time being, who is still being incredibly supportive, by the way, sending him these lovely texts that honestly, when I saw that shit, it actually, I'm like, oh, you lucky, that's awesome. But this whole thing leads to him sleeping in a net cafe, and he just, by chance, manages to meet the person that he's been spending the past, I don't know how long, just gaming it up with.
Shikabane, hey.
Now, Shikabane is a fellow gamer like Haida is, and kind of made him indulge in his, I don't want to say bad behaviors because, games are awesome, but just, in important times, you need to be careful about it. And she kind of made him indulge in that when he probably shouldn't have been. So it's only after realizing the situation he's in, she kind of expresses to him she doesn't want him to end up like her. She shares these excuses with Haida as to why she's not part of the world, but when we look at her, she's someone that's kind of just done with the world. She's homeless, doesn't really have any friends to talk with, and at first I thought just had this expression and voice that was just her character, but now that I look at her, it's just, she just has nothing left for the world in terms of excitement. So she just focuses her time on the one place that she can feel, again, some form of achievement, some sense of pride in herself. And Haida realizes that this is someone that just feeds on the crumbs to just stay alive. Shikabane is someone that never spoke up, admired herself, or really stood for anything. She's a broken person clinging to what can give her some sense of achievement. So eventually, Haida returns to the world with Retsuko, who finally found out about his situation, and of course, being a supportive girlfriend she is, helps him out and gets him on his feet, and they live together and insert the squee here. But the problem is that Haida still can't get over what he did in the previous season, and he doesn't really have faith in himself as to how he stands out above others. And when Tone hears him out and telling this and speaks to him about it, he lights a fire in Haida, telling him about the system that he helped develop for the office and how it's making their production go, well, way more than it was in the past.
Show him what you got.
So after this talk, Haida, he starts studying to become an IT engineer and doing part-time work while he's at it to keep himself afloat. And when he finally gets to formally meet Retsuko's parents instead of the way he kind of barged in last time, he was supposed to say stuff that Retsuko kind of told him to say just to kind of cover their bacon for now, but he can't do that. He can't lie to Retsuko's parents, and he tells them the truth, which of course the parents have doubt. But your boy spoke up, and he's trying to better himself, but you might have noticed we haven't really talked about Retsuko for a while. See, this last season and this one, Retsuko's kind of been trying to help Haida and other people, but now she's in this season and we are not sure how her story is going to wrap up. But throughout this final season, we get little glimpses of someone looking for her. Believe it or not, it turns out it's Masuo Ikari, aka leader of the Party of Rage in freaking politics. This guy wants Retsuko to run for office to save his party with her powerful metal voice full of, yes, rage. You see, he found this from all the OTM videos and her death channel. He's aware that this girl's got some rage that she can freaking dish out if she ever needs to. And Retsuko's friends even think that she'd probably fit the part. But she's settled on a quiet life with Haida and doesn't want to ruin that. There's even a moment when she meets Haida's parents that Haida thought that she would unleash her death metal voice, but she doesn't want to feel like she has to use it on just anything anymore. It has to be for something really significant.
But it doesn't fix anything, It's just a lot of noise. I want to be better than that.
But it's only after OTM forces her on stage and banks yet again on her people-pleasing habits that the audience cheers her name, chants for her to do it, and she unleashes the rage.
Are you seeing this? We are gonna give our all so Retsuko can head back to the hub of power!
Haida's inspired seeing her and tells her, yeah, you have decent reasons for not doing it, but think of all you can do. You could be the voice for the adults just like him and her with troubles that they've had throughout the entire series. And she can actually make changes. And after thinking about it for a while, she decides to do it. All of Retsuko's friends are in support and cheer her on and even help fund it. So a political campaign ensues to get Aggretsuko into office. Retsuko studies up, presents cases super well, but no one's really paying attention to her. And that's because she isn't speaking with that voice that Ikari says will help her win. The rage within. Something I noticed throughout my rewatch is how much less Retsuko lets that voice out. She starts the first season off singing it almost, I think, even multiple times an episode, but as the seasons go on, she does it less and less and less, and it's more of a very specific circumstance that she will do it. I think she kind of started to figure out how to deal with it and has become a lot stronger since then, so she doesn't really need to let out that voice as much anymore. She doesn't want to rage out over stupid stuff anymore, and she just wants to be better. But Tone assures her that this is the voice that the people need to hear sometimes. It's the voice that will get through to others instead of just being that passive-aggressive person. It's the only one that Retsuko speaks with that truly makes her become real. So she gets in front of the audience, lets out her frustrations on even the littlest of things, becomes real to them, and lets out her rage. And you know what? That just gets everyone else to express what they've been so annoyed and buried up about. She even gets Jiro, aka Haida's brother, who is her main opponent in this campaign. She gets him to break through his smiling facade as a, just the face politician, and he just starts shouting out his wish passionately. Haida and Jiro's father has been the politician this whole time, and he wants Jiro to embrace the old ways, but Jiro finally just expresses that he wants to retire older politicians. And because he shouted out this honesty and this big dream of his, it led to him winning. Retsuko lost. But she takes pride in that this was a new record in turnout for voters. So many voters, in fact, that some of them just couldn't even vote because they didn't really have an address to put on the label. And that reminds them, there was one person that day that didn't hear her voice. Someone that really needed to. We come back to the place where all of Retsuko's journeys have ended. Season 1, she unleashed her true self on her first love, Rizasuke. Season 2, she ended her relationship with Tadano, sharing her dreams with him. Season 3, Haida had to let out his feelings to get Retsuko to let out hers. Season 4, Retsuko was there to let Haida be honest with himself. But in this final season, it's someone she knows nothing about. Someone she has no idea what she's been through. Someone that has no faith in herself, the world, or who she is, and will just survive. Someone that has no expression in her voice or face. Someone that Retsuko could have become if her inner rage was never found. When you rewind the openings of this show, Retsuko has become more and more expressive. She starts off just slightly tilting her head in the opening to now just straight up breakdancing. She started out avoiding hanging out with others, and she went straight home. She had no dreams, no aspirations. She was well on her way to becoming someone like Shikabane. But the difference is, she let out her rage. She found others that were willing to accept it. She found others willing to listen to her problems. She had multiple chances to let out that pain that was deep inside of her. Now, she gives that same mic to Shikabane. This was the scene I watched in a time I'm uncertain of what the future holds. A scene that made me shed tears seeing someone finally get to let out their true feelings that they've held in all this time. And this was the scene that encompassed what Aggretsuko was really about. It's a story about letting out what's boiling up inside you. It's about finding others that accept your anger. It's about listening to others and what they have to say. It's about how your voice can matter to others no matter how much you think it won't. It's about letting out your problems so you can face them. Retsuko isn't a perfect person, but that's what drove so many people to love her. She was the spark that reminded them that no one has it all figured out. She's the spark that fought back that darkness. She carries that spark we all have inside us, the rage deep within. And in these final moments, she let someone else let out all their pain, and she listened. And that was what I took away from Aggretsuko.